Jesus, don't cry. You can rely on me, honey. You can combine anything you want. I'll be around. You were right about the stars. Each one is a setting sun. Tall buildings shake, voices escape, singing sad, sad songs. Two chords strung down your cheeks, bitter melodies turning your orbit around. Don't cry. You can rely on me, honey. You can come by anytime you want. I'll be around. You were right about the stars. Each one is a setting sun. Tall buildings shake, voices escape, singing sad, sad songs. Two chords strung down your cheeks, bitter melodies turning your orbit around. Voices whine, skyscrapers are scraping together. Your voices smoking, last cigarettes are all you can get, turning your orbit around. Our love, our love, our love is all we have. Our love is all we have, honey. Everyone is a burning sun. Tall buildings shake, voices escape, singing sad, sad songs. Two chords strung down your cheeks, bitter melodies turning your orbit around. Strung down your cheeks, bitter melodies turning your orbit around. Strung down your cheeks, bitter melodies turning your orbit around.
What a comfort seeing all these familiar faces, all these people who loved Marty. On behalf of David and Max, David's mother Jane, Marty's sisters Terry and Barb, Boo and Louise, Katie, Vanessa, Michelle, thank you for coming to help celebrate and remember our Marty. That smile, that's the first thing you'd notice about Marty, that radiant smile. A smile that broadcasts the positive and joyous the way she decided to live her life. Rich with color and spice, art and music, friendship, family, and love. She was a wife, a mother, a neighbor, and a dear, dear friend to me and to many others. She was a master seamstress, a quilt maker, an artist, and a collector of rubber stamps. She was a legendary cook and baker, a librarian, a film researcher, a bike rider, an ice skater, and a black diamond skier from Indiana. Yes, she was a Hoosier. She was a lover of alligators and owls, an intrepid traveler, a tango dancer, and one of the fabulous original diminished capacitats. She was born Martha Ann Morec, but Martha always seemed way too stuffy for her, and everyone called her Marty. When her father-in-law, Sam Feld, toasted her at her wedding, he spoke of the love and the light that she showered on all of us, and he referred to her as Our Marti. That's how I've thought of her ever since. Our Marti was born in Indianapolis on the day after Christmas, 1951. Her parents, George and Marti Morec, already had a one-year-old boy named Bob. Eventually, there would be 4 Morec kids. Barb, born 2 years after Marti, and Terry, 2 years after that. Barb and Terry are here with us today. They grew up in Loves Park in northern Illinois, about 10 miles from the Wisconsin border. Our Marti had a small town and suburban childhood like so many of us who grew up in 50s and 60s America. Riding bikes, ice skating, Girl Scouts, ballet, music lessons. Our Marti played the oboe. Her sister Terry says if you want to know what Marti was like as a kid, just think about what she was like as an adult. Always cheerful, happy, helpful, always sweet. Marti's mom died suddenly when she was only 12, and that's when she began to show some of the indomitable spirit that carried her through the rest of her life. She never talked much about the loss of her mother, but she did say it taught her not to waste her precious life and to focus on living it instead. Live it, she did. And her example showed many of us gathered here today how to live our lives fully. The Morecs moved to Newcastle, Indiana for a fresh start when Marti was a freshman in high school. Some of you will already know that Newcastle is the home of the High School Basketball Hall of Fame. Marti played her part in Hoosier Hysteria as a cheerleader at the Walter P. Chrysler High School, which boasts about having the largest field house in the United States, outside of Texas, of course. A field house that holds 10,000 people. Throughout her life, Marti had the vitality and genuine enthusiasm of a cheerleader, and not just about things that were cool. Our Marti went to Indiana University, but Indiana could not hold her. On graduation, she made a year-long commitment to Vista, which assigned her to faraway Orange County. There she worked at Legal Aid. At the end of the year, she packed up her things in her black VW, and she and her dog Jet drove north to San Francisco, where they didn't know a soul. Can you hear me back there in the back? Good. Loud was never my problem. Marti was always ready to have an adventure, and she had the courage and confidence and know-how to make things work. Marti and Jet got a studio apartment on 35th and Irving in the Sunset, where they met Norma, Susan, and Laura, who lived upstairs. Soon, Marti and Jet were invited to move out of the studio and into fabulous new digs in their dining room. She never lost touch with the friends she made while she lived in that apartment. The gals, as Marti called them, Norma, Susan, Laura, and Marti, Mary, Joan, Ellen, Sharon, Barbara, and Robin, remained among her best friends till her dying day, even though she once set the apartment on fire. I'm hoping somebody will tell us more of that story later. At first, Marti worked as a temp. As Norma says, she had secretarial skills, meaning she could type. And in the spring of 1975, she and Norma, who had bartending skills, took a test to become eligibility workers at the welfare department. And Marti got a job with boarding homes and institutions. She was taking care of a group of foster kids with special needs. They were blind or developmentally disabled, or perhaps both. The day she met David. That's a picture of the day she met David. David, the man with whom she would share her life. They were at a Northern California countercultural event, typical of the times, the Whole World Jamboree in Marin County. That's where people swatted at each other with Rolfing swords and collectively pushed a massive ball about a muddy field. Here's a picture of the day they met in the summer of 1978. David had come with some of his own group of friends with needs, Bill Locke and Ray Funk. I say with needs because they were most likely stoned and disabled in their own way. All photos of David from that day have been lost or destroyed. We do have this one, taken at the first fabulous diminished capacity review concert ever given. And this shows what the man she loved, fell in love with, looked like, right? So this was at Bolt Hall, December 1978, a time when Marti and David shared the same hairdo, don't you think? There were to be many, many more Dim Cap concerts in the years that followed. But Marti was there at the creation, and along with Lissa and Dana, became the especially fabulous original diminished capacitets. I wasn't there then, but I hear they're more remembered for their fabulous attire, slick choreography, and stage presence than for their singing. I actually met Marti at another Dim Cap performance in 1983 at a party in a loft south of Market. Everyone had been instructed to wear plaid. Everyone, it seemed, except me. Bill forgot to tell me about the theme of the party. I'm sorry, I don't remember Marti's outfit, but I'm sure that's only because everyone else looked so strange to me wearing their plaid outfits. Marti and I sat at the bar together at many a diminished capacity review gig, talking about anything and everything. Our Marti had a special, easy way of pulling people into her wonderful, wacky, colorful, and fabulous world. And Marti and I became friends for life. Of course, Dim Cap also played at Marti and David's wedding at the Cameron Stamford House on Lake Merritt in July 1985. They weren't the featured band, but they played a couple of original songs. Marti and David's first lawfully wedded dance was to the song Saturday Night Fish Fry. They honeymooned in the Trinity Alps, where they showed their remarkable endurance by actually getting out of the tent and hiking 18 miles in one day. Then they went on to Italy, where Marti brought back memories of a 5-hour lunch in Venice, fireworks at the Lago Maggiore, and a pair of incredible green leather boots from Milan that all of us gals always coveted. For our Marti, everything was always in living color. She brought her enthusiasm and sense of adventure not only to her travels, but to her closet. This is a Marti outfit. Her outfits were less clothing and more proclamations of her joyous and exuberant approach to life. Marti was always a working girl. She worked as a producer at KQED on the TV program Over Easy with Hugh Downs. She did film research on documentaries and found photos for coffee table books. We worked together on a couple of ridiculous but lucrative fake Nightline shows for Pacific Bell. And we managed to get the phone company to pay for us to have production meetings over lunch every day, shrimp and grits at the Crescent City Cafe. While we worked on the second of those videos, Marti became pregnant. Here you see her carrying Max onto the Golden Gate Bridge to celebrate its 50th anniversary. Marti gave birth to Max in May of 1987. Of course, she adored him. Whether he was in his fireman phase, or his FBI agent phase, or his phase where he ran the Bank of Oakland from a little playhouse in the backyard. For long stretches of their childhood, most kids want to have as little as possible to do with grown-ups. Hard to believe, I know. But it was different with Marti. Max's friends would come to revere her as the coolest mom on earth. After Max was born, Marti Marty started working on a master's degree in library science at UC Berkeley. She became a librarian in the art and music department at the Berkeley Public Library, a place my daughter Charlie always called Marty's Library. Our Marty worked there for more than 20 years. Motherhood gave Marty expanded opportunities to exercise her artistic and culinary talents, often merging the two, whether it was birthday cakes like this police cake for Max's 6th birthday, or the Oakland A's cake she made for his 8th birthday, or pajamas Marty invariably preferred to make rather than buy the many gifts she doled out. One year, Marty gave Max this Batman nightshirt, and she gave me this poodle nightshirt, and who just told me they've got another poodle nightshirt? Katie. So crafty and thrifty, right? I think we were all three the same size that year. I'm the only one who didn't get taller. I still wear it. She made us quilts for graduations and baby presents and anniversaries. She made us aprons and bags and beaded bracelets. Let's see a show of hands. How many of you are the proud owners of an apron or a quilt or one of these beaded bracelets or another precious gift that Marti Morec made for you? She even made banners for her wedding. All of these banners she made for her wedding, including this one, which she called Flash in Love, because David's dim cap name is Flash. Throughout her life, friends and family were very important. Our Marty attended numerous Harrington family reunions, stayed close to her Indiana friends and family, and often cooked pork tenderloin. Let's see where the pork tenderloin picture is. There it is, down there. Often cooked pork tenderloin, the unofficial state dish of Indiana. She also loved getting together with the Feld family, who almost every summer would meet on Cape Cod to enjoy each other and Jane's legendary bluefish. In the year 2000, Marty and David bought a share in a house at Dillon Beach. It became one of Marty's favorite places to go. She loved to walk the beach with her dogs Coco and then Rye, to watch the Thule elk at Point Reyes, and search for sea lions at Tomales Point. Watching the sunset while cooking dinner was one of her greatest pleasures. About dogs. Marty almost always had one. Jet, Willie, Coco, that dog whose name we will not mention, and Rye. Along with David, our Marty kept a steady finger on the pulse of Bay Area culture, including its most curious corners. They collected Bullwinkle art, they were regulars at the Cotati Accordion Festival, and they took tango lessons. Marty's eclectic tastes turned their aqua and purple bungalow in Rockridge into a stunning rainbow folk art museum. Where else, really, where else could you relax on a purple Pee Wee Herman sofa, drinking a martini with your feet up on an alligator coffee table? Unlike the rest of us married ladies who dish out familiar who dish out familiar complaints about our husbands when we get together over a glass of wine, Marty never complained about David. Was it that David was a perfect husband and she had nothing to complain about? Was it that she had the best marriage of all of us? Maybe. I think it's most likely because Marty always believed that there were better things to do and to think about than to complain about having a human being for a husband. Even a human being whose peculiar proclivities like accumulating and displaying a massive collection of Coke bottles in the living room, to take just one example, might possibly inspire critical comment among some of us. He, in turn, moved seamlessly from loving husband, crusading public defender, to loving husband, incredible caregiver. Marti started noticing the signs of ALS about 4 years ago. She fought it, and even after the horrible diagnosis, she wanted to live her life as normally as she could for as long as she could. She didn't want to hear people's sympathy or pity, and she didn't want the disease to define her. She went on with life. She continued to be kind and caring and interested in the people she loved, warm and welcoming and ready to laugh. She kept the abiding curiosity about the world that turned her and David into enthusiastic globetrotters. Even after the diagnosis, Marti and David traveled to Corsica, Barcelona, and the south of France, to Tanzania, Zanzibar, and South Africa, and to Hong Kong to visit Max. Inevitably, the disease overcame her struggle. As it robbed our Marti of speech and movement, she allowed a number of her loving friends the enormous and heartbreaking privilege of caring for her. Lissa, Dana, Sharon, Julie, Susan, Karen, Anne, Leah, Beth, Jane, Lynn, Laura, and Ellen among them. On the day after Christmas, just 3 years ago, just a year after her initial diagnosis, Marti celebrated her 60th birthday. She brought all of us to the ice rink. I guess maybe she dragged all of us to the ice rink to celebrate, as she did every year on her birthday. And she proceeded to dazzle us by skating a full 60 laps around the rink, the last lap backwards. David said she went so fast. This is the only picture he has. She was brave and bright, a down-home and cosmopolitan woman who lived a full, wonderful life of friends and family, of art and plants and books and film and music and dogs, in faraway places and in a kitchen which produced extraordinary cornbread, carrot cake, and sugar cream pie. She lived a full, wonderful life infused with laughter and love and courage. I will always feel the warmth and strength of her smile, and I'll think of Marti when I try to be there for the people I love, when I embrace the oddities and quirks around us, and when I try to live my life with the open arms and open heart that our Marti did. I will always miss her. That's your cue.
Ready? Can you hear me? Yes. Well, first of all, Terry is Marty's youngest sister, and she would come out here often, especially in the last 3.5 years, to help Marty and David and be with David. And she and I had many opportunities to connect and talk. And it's a blessing for me that I get to read this really heartfelt letter of gratitude and appreciation that Terry has written to Marty. She wrote it in this new journal, all in her hand, which I can read. And the front cover says, as well as the back, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? I wanted to share that. Terry and I got to spend some time alone 2 nights ago, and she honored my request that she read the letter to me, which was quite a gift. And I also was gifted with more narratives about Marty's life, which are not included in this letter. We would be here for hours, I think, if it were. I just wanted to mention a couple things that were takeaways for me from that night with Terry. For those of you who don't know this, Marty was the oldest girl, and when their mother died, Marty was only 12 years old, and Terry was 8. And Marty very quickly took over a parent role, taking care of her younger sisters. The other thing is when Terry was reading this to me, she, at the end, said to me, you know, I think Marty was my security blanket, and that's evident in this letter. The last thing I wanted to mention was something Rachel said, which Terry kept saying throughout our time together. She said, Marty was always like this. She was always like this as a child and as an adult. And my takeaway from that was that Marty always gave with beauty. Wherever she was, whomever she was with, and whatever she was doing. My dear sister Marty, I want to thank you for being such a terrific sister, always caring and generous, always there for me, always loving, kind, and loyal. When we were young, you always helped me in so many ways, especially after Mom died. Barb tells me you ironed our dresses for us in the mornings before we got dressed for school. I have to admit to no memory of this. I was young, I suppose. But Barb remembers it clearly. What an incredibly caring action to take when you were so young yourself. You loved ice skating and took me down to the street to Martin Park in the winter and patiently taught me to ice skate when I was about 7 or 8. I was so thrilled to learn. You even let me wear your ice skates, sometimes with about 4 pairs of socks on my feet. In warm weather, we had lots of fun, bike rides, and more trips to Martin Park for fabulous craft sessions. When we moved from Illinois to Indiana, I was just turning 9 years old. I was so sad to leave my friends. You were older, made friends immediately with the new neighbor kids. We soon had lots of new friends to play with. You said you had a special way of making that transition bearable for me. At age 10, I fondly remember you helping me with my 4-H sewing project, an apron. I was crying while sitting at the sewing machine. I did not understand the instructions and was completely frustrated. You came to me, asked what was wrong, and helped me figure out how to sew that apron. I still have that apron. It is priceless. Thank you for sharing your high school cheerleading moves with me. You were so spirited and enthusiastic, even when I landed on my jaw once instead of my feet. Terry told me that she couldn't open her jaw for 3 weeks. Thank you for letting me sample your dozens of batches of chocolate chip cookies as you were perfecting the recipe all the time during your high school years. You instilled in me an interest and respect for theater. While in high school, we were in a few plays. I was introduced to A Midsummer's Night, Dream, and others. I remember you also working earnestly on sewing the costumes for those plays. You set such a good example of hard work and devotion to those projects. When you left for college at Indiana University, I really missed you. I felt so safe and secure when you were around. I could barely wait until I was old enough to drive so I could drive myself down to Bloomington to visit you. You always generously welcomed my visits. We had some fun adventures in Bloomington, Brown County, and Lake Lemon. After college, you moved to California. I felt lost. I could not believe you were so far away, but I knew I could always be welcome there, wherever you lived, with your dependable, loyal, sisterly love. With any big, important event in Indiana, I could always depend on you to be there and help if need be. You were so terrific about coming to see my girls when we were babies, when they were babies. Aunt Marty had to meet her new nieces. Your love for them was genuine, and they loved you back just as much. Thank you for all the amazing visits to Indiana. Somehow, each craft or cooking project with my girls turned into an incredibly lively, fun, magical adventure. How did you do that? Thank you for coming to Newcastle more often when Dad was going downhill in assisted living, then the nursing home. Remember that crazy busy week spent cleaning out his house. It helped so much for you to be there, supportive and dependable. Thank you for patiently and willingly helping with both Marin and Michelle's high school graduation and events and open houses. Marin's wedding, when I was barking out orders as the crazed mother of the bride. There's a lot of story behind that. And Michelle's college graduation open house. There you were, always energetic, dependable, creative, helpful, amazing Marty. Our family reunions were extra fun and special when you could be there. I loved spending time with you and all our cousins. Thank you for numerous incredible road trips over the years. Traveling with you was a joy. We had many trips to Dillon Beach. Those are special memories. Thank you, Marty, for teaching me so much and inspiring me to be a better person. I always look to you for guidance. Oh, that's really glasses. And admired how you handled every situation. You had a fantastic way of always going the extra mile, whether you were chopping vegetables, sewing quilts. Doting on your nieces. Or planning a vacation. Unexpected. Nothing was ever too much of a bother. I will always admire that generous, zealous, creative side of you. I will think of you every time I put on my apron, use my pot over, see an owl, eat a tenderloin sandwich, sew a baby blanket, watch ice skating, bake chocolate chips. I could go on and on. When I got the phone call that your diagnosis was ALS, I was devastated for you. We were all brokenhearted. I have not stopped crying in 3.5 years. I knew what a cruel disease you were facing. You faced it with typical Marty, passion for life, courageous, determined, independent, inspiring. I will miss you every day for the rest of my life. I am grateful you are no longer suffering through each day. But I am so incredibly sad that a cruel disease took you away from us. The last thing that I ever said to you was, you know how much I love you. You did know, and I did truly mean it. Love forever. Love forever, Terry.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Terry. That group of women who met Marty in the 70s. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Okay. That group of women who met Marty in the 70s, the gals, still such fast and furious friends, still in constant contact with each other. Mary Dillow, would you please come up and tell us what that's all about?
Of course. So, I had the good fortune of meeting Marty in 1975 when I entered a roommate wanted, there's that roommate wanted thing again, notice posted in the San Francisco Laundromat. I answered that ad. I was happy they took me. And as a result of that decision, I actually have a group of friends that are now lovely called the gals, so thank you. So, on behalf of all those gals, I would like to read a tribute to you that we composed by bringing all our feelings together. And what's so interesting is it reflects everything that's just been said. So it's so solid how people remember Marty. So this is a tribute to Marty, and it is called Dare we? Dare we embrace life the way Marti embraced life? Embracing the fullness, the vastness of it all, loving our mate, our partner, our spouse, our child, beyond which that which we are even capable of. Dare we be like Marti? The adventurer, traveling the continents, those faraway places with the man and the son she loved more than life itself. The world was out there, why not take it in? Marti delighting in her senses. Ears are for music, bodies are for dancing, mouths are for eating, and ice skates are for skating. And while you're at it, why wouldn't you skate backwards? Marti creating, using her brain, her heart, her hands, creating blankets and aprons and purses and bowls and plates and mugs. Colors and colors and colors upon colors and shapes and shapes and shapes upon shapes. She had this creative soul with which she has the most wonderful sense of style, bold, carefree, and at the same time so sophisticated. We were indeed envious. And of course baking, buying cookbooks with all those lovely pictures of cakes and pies that she would then bake for all of us to eat. Dare we be like Marti? Her curiosity, embracing her keen mind to explore the world and all it has to offer. For Marti, there was so much to do and enjoy, and she wanted us to enjoy it too. She was our own personal librarian, giving us lists of books that she thought we should read. Dare we be like Marti? Her friendship, so easy, so open, so steady, so generous and full, never judgmental, never critical, always trustworthy, always wanting to know how we were doing, never mind her. Dare we be like Marti? Dare we face death the way Marti faced death? Dignified, always, facing her growing weakness with strength and dignity, stripped to her true essence, solid, unflappable, and dignified. Forgiving the cruelty of fate. Can we forgive that the one we love so much is gone? In closing, I'd like to share our son's thoughts on his baby blanket. And I have to show you the back of it too. I have to tell you, there was one point where I said, Zach, you can't bring that to sleepovers anymore. So these are his words about his baby blanket that Marti created and sewed for him in 1990. That blanket was my comfort. You can tell how much I loved it just by looking at it now. Every night, I would cuddle up and tuck it under my head. And if it wasn't there, I had trouble going to sleep. During the day, I would put it next to my head, and the smell alone would relax me. That blanket was a huge part of my growing up. I loved it with all my heart. It was a constant, it was a companion, it was always there, always soft and ready for my tired head. Marti, you are a huge part of our growing up, and we love you with all our heart. We want to cuddle up, tuck you under our head, breathe you in, and relax. So Marti, we want you to know we are accepting your dare. We are putting on our skates, and we are going to skate back.
Turn the volume down. Dance me to your beauty with a burning violin. Dance me through the panic till I'm gathered safely in. Lift me like an olive branch and be my homeward dove. Dance me to the end of love. Dance me to the end of love. Let me see your beauty when the witnesses are gone. Let me feel you moving like they do in Babylon. Show me slowly what I only know the limits of. Dance me to the end of love. Dance me to the end of love.
Oh, dance me to the wedding now, dance me on and on. Dance me very tenderly, oh, dance me very long. We're both of us beneath our love, we're both of us above. Dance me to the end of love. Oh, dance me to the end of love.
Dance me to the children who are asking to be born. Dance me through the curtains that our kisses have worn. Raise a tent of shelter now, though every thread is torn. Dance me to the end of love. Dance me to the end of love. Dance me to your beauty with a burning violin. Dance me through the panic till I'm gathered safely in. Touch me with your naked hand, but touch me with your glove. Dance me to the end of love. Dance me to the end of love.
Public service was an important part of Marty's life. She went to public school from kindergarten through graduate school. And her work at the public library was part of her commitment to serve others. Pat Mullen, who was the head of the art and music department at the Berkeley Library when Marty was there, is here with us to share her thoughts.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real honor to be here. The world is a much more beautiful place because Marti Morec was in it. Marti worked for over 20 years at Berkeley Public Library, giving new meaning to the concept public servant. Welcoming, generous, knowledgeable, hardworking in the old-fashioned sense, warm, funny, political, colorful, and dedicated, with a unique sartorial signature that pretty much revolutionized the idea of what a librarian looks like. Marti Morec was the kind of librarian who put her body and soul on the line on a daily basis to protect and defend the life of our minds. For most of her library career, Marty worked in the art and music department, and I had the terrific luck to work with her and with a tight band of other dedicated librarians for most of that time. If those decades in art and music were a kind of golden age, Marty had very much to do with that. Marty answered art and music reference questions with relish and a deep background. Every question was a chance to interact with the public, and whether her patrons were erudite or lost at sea, Marty dove in. She was especially adept at working with the disabled. Marty leaned in to comprehend folks whose speech was impaired, who had to use a spelling board, whose mobility limited what they could carry. Her patrons adored her. Our staff also adored her. Marty worked to develop the art and music collection that, like she worked in the rest of her life, incessantly. She selected the music recordings for world music, folk music, country and western music, and gospel, and built a collection that is a destination collection to this day. She wasn't content to purchase from catalogs and online. Marty got on her bike and visited Reed's Records and Down Home Music and charmed the staff there too. She contributed to all the decision-making in the department for developing the book and score collections and was a tireless proponent for vinyl records. Marty had a special depth in the 790s. Her earlier work in film and TV, her dancing, tango, and her ice skating. Marty created displays like her annual ones for the Pro Arts Open Studios that included work by participating artists that she picked up herself. Art and music staff meetings and daily operations were buoyant because Marty would breeze in with a basket of scones she had made, wrapped in a vintage tablecloth she had discovered. Or because she had a new beaded bracelet she'd whipped up, or maybe she was wearing her floral print Doc Martens, or had her hair in the ponytail to the side. She would smile, she would volunteer to cover an extra desk hour, she would make us laugh with an observation about a coworker, she would make us happy. Art and music did develop a bit of a reputation for throwing a pretty good party. A couple in particular were the early morning Mardi Gras open house for the library staff. Another was art and music's 40-year anniversary party with the 1960s theme. Marty was behind all of this. For the 1960s party, she was decked out in a vintage apron and led the dancing. For the Mardi Gras one, she supplied the king cake, the decor, and the atmosphere that led Gina Manudri, the library director, to dance behind the reference desk. That was a sight. She must have told stories at home that made her job sound fun, because her son Max, around age 8, in his businessman phase, came in to work at Marty's office desk to file the return cassettes. When we were compelled to create an art and music jazz band to play for the California Library Association's convention, but needed a bass player, Marty also enticed another family member, David, to impersonate a library worker and play the bass in the band. There were about 50 jazz festivals that Marty helped produce. Her warmth, production sense, and overabundant enthusiasm for community access to the arts were instrumental in making these events professional and successful. Marty was the hospitality team. She prepped the green room. She met the artists. She soothed their worries and delivered their tea. She also poured her energy into publicity, welcoming the audiences, setting up and breaking down the lighting and sound system and seating. And when we booked the New Orleans-style marching band to kick off the Renew Orleans Jazz Festival, Marty organized the band in the second line and led this entourage around the streets surrounding the library herself. She danced that group around the block to Shattuck Avenue and up the library steps. Beyond art and music activities, Marty was integral to the library as a whole. She built a part of the general collection. She poured herself into library committees. She edited the staff newsletter. And she created the extracurricular. She organized the art and music librarians trip to Union Square at Christmas to see the lights, ride the cable car, and top it off with a martini at the Tiki Room. Not that long ago, Marty had that same small gang to the beach house for lunch and a walk on the sand. She wasn't eating solid food anymore, but that didn't stop her from laying out a beautiful buffet for us. Marty was excessively generous and kind. She gave and gave. In her last year's work as collection development librarian for the entire library system, she fashioned a collection and a method that were exemplary, and that may not be seen again. Marty had an enormous heart and a great sense of fun. Everyone who got to be her friend at the library felt that warmth and intimacy. She bore the unbearable. Now, we have to do the impossible. What we're left with is her example and ourselves. Maybe Maya Angelou's words can help. Angelou wrote, "And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of electric vibration. Our senses, restored, never to be the same, whisper to us. They existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed."
Marty's dear friends Ken Rice and Melinda Levine met Marty at the elementary school where their daughter Morgan and where Max Feld went to school. Morgan grew up, and she was a special friend of Marty's.
Is in the right place? That's Marty and Mommy. When I graduated from high school, one of the gifts my mom gave me was a patchwork quilt. Each of the several dozen patches was patterned with flowers, foliage, polka dots, oceanscapes, and embroidered birds. The color scheme was bright. Lavender and polka dots next to green cabbage alongside red tulips, bordered by turquoise and mustard toucans. This aesthetic was entirely consistent with my mom's taste. But what made this quilt stand out from all those she had made before was how quilt-like it was. It was a perfect rectangle of even thickness and indeed quilted. This was the part of the quilt that Marti and her sewing machine had made possible. The two women had made the quilt together and were delighted that their collaboration had escaped my notice for the months it must have taken them to make. An embroidered patch on the back of it says, "With love from Marti and Mommy." That was 2002. Since then, the quilt has laid atop every bed I've called my own. That would be 4 different dorm rooms in Los Angeles, my downtown Oakland studio apartment, a dorm room, a brownstone, and a loft in New York City. At this moment, the quilt is enjoying its second home in New Jersey. Each time I unpack the quilt in a new environment, I trace my fingers over the patch on the back, "With love from Marti and Mommy." In 2004, when the quilt and I were based out of my second Los Angeles dorm room, my mom died. For me, of course, this meant so many things. Some of them intangible, others quite concrete. One of the more concrete losses was the cards, letters, and gifts mailed to me in my new homes. Not just for birthdays, I was always home for my birthday, but for the less celebrated occasions, Halloween, Hanukkah, Valentine's Day, and also to commemorate simply being able to receive mail at a new address. Beginning in 2005, I received these instead from Marti. Over the years, in Los Angeles, New York, and New Jersey, Marti sent me the first piece of mail I received at just about every new address. Valentine's cards, Halloween cards, congratulations on your new job cards, welcome to your new home cards. I don't expect this to be a surprise to anyone here. Marti probably sent cards to many people, maybe everyone here. And probably Marti sent these to me when my mom was still alive. Still, with each card that I received, I knew that Marti was showing me that she loved me in this dependable, tactile way because my mom couldn't. I don't know that my mom specifically asked Marti to take over mailing to Morgan duty, at least in so many words. Nor do I assume that Marti volunteered in so many words to carry on this baton. But what I do know is how much each and every card has meant to me over the last decade. Each one and together, they are just one tangible demonstration of how Marti has come to feel like a mother to me too over the last decade. Of course, it is for all the intangible ways that she has been a mom that I will miss her even more. Thank you.
You know, the first rule of the show is never follow a child. So on March 18, 2011, Marti had one of a series of doctor's appointments. She had noticed something wrong the previous summer when she realized she could not blow up a balloon. And then she lost the ability to whistle. And shortly after that, I started noticing something wrong with her speech, like just a little slurring at the end of the sentence. And so I made her go to the doctor. So she started a series of appointments, one after another, and every test was negative, which we thought was a good sign. Of course, it was a very bad sign. So on March 18th, she had her first appointment with a neurologist at Oakland Kaiser, just one of the staff neurologists, not the expert we would come to know. We were going to the beach that weekend, so I didn't go with her. I had some stuff I had to do at work to get done so that we could leave early. So I went into work and got some things accomplished. And then I came home probably around noon, and Marty was in the kitchen packing up. And I asked her, how did it go with the neurologist? And she said, not very well. He thinks I have ALS. So at that moment, I knew there was a very good chance that we would end up here, remembering Marty and telling our stories about her. We went to the beach, and that evening I opened a bottle of wine, poured 2 glasses, and when our glasses touched, Marty said, in sickness and in health. And I said, absolutely. Well, that summer, when we watched the video of our wedding, I realized we never really said those words. I think it was understood. So, people have said very nice things to me and about me recently, and even, of course, in the last 3 years. And I think it's also important to acknowledge some of the other things, the other emotions that don't get remarked upon going through an experience like this. The anger, resentment, frustration, the lack of personal autonomy, the loss of control over your life. Those are also things that accompany this experience. And I think anybody who's had this type of disaster in their life has experienced similar emotions. But maybe not. I went to an A's game with Andy Hour in September, and for those who didn't know Andy, she was a friend from the PD's office who died of cancer 4 days before Marty died. And Andy asked me how I was doing and how I was taking care of myself, and I told her one of the things I did was occasionally I went to this ALS support group, and there were people there who said things like, their relationship has never been stronger, and this has brought them closer together, and their marriage is better than it's ever been. And I told Andy I didn't know what they were talking about. As far as I was concerned, this was unmitigated suffering. So Andy agreed with me that that was just a lot of crap. I think Andy used a stronger word than crap. And I think I used a stronger word than crap. But the people who said that weren't lying, they weren't making it up. They were describing what their experience was. And it showed me that just as every relationship and every marriage is in some sense distinct and unknowable, the way that every couple deals with a fatal disease is also distinct and unknowable. In September, I was back in Syracuse for Sam's memorial service. The last year was served back at the Marti Morec family. And Louise asked me how I was doing. And I told her I've been thinking a lot about this great Dick Van Dyke episode. And I agree, every episode of Dick Van Dyke was terrific. The one where Rob thought they switched babies at the hospital, and then the Peters came over with their black baby. Or the one where Buddy was taking bar mitzvah lessons, and they thought he was having an affair. But this one has definitely stayed with me, and it's where Dick Van Dyke's real-life brother, Jerry, played his brother on the show. He had a crush on a woman who had rejected him, so Jerry was very depressed. And everybody he came in contact with said, "I know how you feel." To which he immediately responded, "Nobody knows how I feel." And he's right about that. Because it's such an individual experience that even though there are things that are similar and undoubtedly universal, it's just something that everybody goes through in their own way. So believe me, I know exactly how he feels when he says that nobody knows how he feels. So Max is kind of an expert on Asian cinema, but occasionally he'll watch a European movie, and he's slowly working his way through the films of Jean-Luc Godard in chronological order, because he's my son as well as Marty's. So I thought I'd call this part, and so he's gotten up to 2 or 3 things I know about her. So I thought I'd call this little segment 2 or 3 things I know about her. When I first Marty, she used to make color Xerox calendars for the new year. So she'd draw in the months, and she included little, like, clicked out slogans or pictures from magazines or newspapers. And the first one that I can remember her doing, she had a little thing that she had taken out of a magazine that said, "Why be normal?" And I think that it explained a lot. What was the point of being like everyone else? You had to find your own way of existing, your own way of being in the world. And you know, we spent a lot of time in New Orleans, and one of the other things she loved was Les Blank's film, Always for Pleasure. And in the movie, which shows food and music and dancing and culture and the history of the city. And those are all the things that attracted us so much. And sort of above all of it, this kind of culture which understood that joy and ritual and celebration had to be incorporated into your everyday life, that it was a part of being. And so Marty understood that pleasure was serious business. And the last time we were there, we went to the studio of Dr. Bob. And Dr. Bob is an artist who uses a lot of alligators and bottle caps in his art. And this is a good time to talk about alligators and owls. I brought Marty's owl handkerchief. And frankly, I don't know exactly why or when owls took over from alligators in our house. But one day I realized that the house was full of owls and all the alligators were hiding. And even the alligator coffee table was no longer in its place next to the couch. It was over, like, cowering behind the curtain. And I'm not really sure why that happened. But Dr. Bob, he understood the importance of alligators. So he used a lot of alligators and bottle caps in his art. But what he's really known for is spray painting his famous slogan. And now my assistant will show you. Be nice or leave. So we bought one of his paintings, and it's on the closet door in the front of the house. So it's kind of the first thing you see when you walk in the house. And a lot of people come in and they see all the shoes in the front hall, and they ask, do I have to take my shoes off? They say, no, that's up to you. That's not a rule. We only have one rule in our house. Be nice or leave. Because Marty didn't have any time for mean or unfriendly people. What was the point of doing that? So I want to talk a little bit about death. Lynn Maslow, who was one of our hospice nurses, said, I know a lot about dying, but I don't know anything about death. And death is terrifying. And why shouldn't it be? Marty was scared every minute of the past 3 years, and so was I. And I was able to distract myself by getting involved in the minutiae of taking care of her, which was an ongoing task, of course. And she could distract herself by doing the things that she still enjoyed, reading books on her iPad or watching Scandal. I knew Jake was innocent. The first time Sharon Walder, who's the hospice spiritual counselor, came over, she asked Marty what she missed most. And I expected Marty to say something like riding my bike or going out to dinner with friends. And that was exactly right. She did not have a future. You know, that Marty was a librarian and loved books, and so I'm going to talk about a book and recommend it to you. It's a book called Being Mortal by Atul Gawande, in which he talks about what happens as you approach death, not just physically, but also emotionally and socially. And it's about how we talk about death, or more commonly don't talk about it, but how important it is to talk to your family and your loved ones about your hopes and your fears, about what you want and what you don't want. And the people from hospice really helped us a great deal in being able to have those conversations, which were really, really important to us, and I would say are important to everybody. Marty told Sharon Waller in another of our sessions that she didn't know how to accept death or prepare for it. And Sharon told her that love could be an anchor in facing death. And love may not be able to defeat death the way it does in fairy tales, but it can provide strength and comfort in that encounter with death. And love, indeed, is what all of you showed her during the past 3 years, and especially as things got closer to the end, by visiting and caring for her, by writing her, calling her, by being present for her. And that was really the greatest gift that you could give her. Our love is all we have, and love is the lightning bolt in the heart. Love is power, sometimes love is pain. And the love which you have shown Marty, Max, and me the past 3 years sustains me, fills me, overflows me. Thank you for coming today, and thank you for being alive.
David's asked me to extend his heartfelt thanks to Marty's medical caregivers, starting with Dr. Will North, her Kaiser neurologist in Hayward and San Leandro. Dr. North always showed a great deal of patience, compassion, and insight. She also received excellent care from the fantastic team at Kaiser Hospice, nurses Deborah Falk and Lynn Maslow, home health aide Tiana, Suki, the social worker, and chaplain Sharon Waller, not to mention the most prominent. He also wants to acknowledge the great staff at the Forbes Norris Clinic in San Francisco, And finally, a big thank you to Marty's home health nurse, Ramona Drager, who spent many hours caring for Marty in so many ways. Okay, now's the time a lot of you have been waiting for. Open mic. There are a lot of people in this room, and there are a lot of stories. So I'm going to ask, we welcome people to come up one at a time to tell a story. Please confine yourselves to one short story so that everyone who wants to come up will have a chance to share.
I'm Ruth, longtime friend of David's and Marty's. So after listening to Morgan talk about Marty's generosity and writing to her, I thought I was the only one that got all that stuff from Marty. Silly me. But I just want to tell you that I'm a childhood friend of David's, and he often calls me his sister from another mother. And when I met Marty, you know how hard it is to have, you know, a love in your life and have this woman that was a part of his life for 10 years. Marty embraced me as his sister, and even though I've known David longer, they're in my hearts together, and we'll let her. She was my other sister too. I was the recipient of bracelets and Capo Picado for my wedding, and she just always gave and dancing tango at our wedding, and always just giving. And I just want to thank you and pass on to the next person.
Hi, I'm Ken Rice, and the work my daughter spoke beautifully a few moments ago, as well as Rachel and everyone else. So I just want to give a brief, I have this recollection of meeting Marty. Max was a kindergartner at Peralta Elementary, so that was about 22 years ago by my calculations. Morgan was a third grader, and we had a very active parent group who just was helping doing all sorts of odds and ends around the school. It was a small school. I remember meeting this woman, Marty. She had this just great enthusiasm, zest for life, just joy. And I thought, I want to be friends with this woman. And I forget the exact details, but I think I invited her over for dinner, and she and David and Max came over, and that was 22 plus years ago. And I'm so happy that I made that dinner invitation, just because the Morec family and extended family have been really second families to us. And I've been through some tough times also. And Marty was always there, and obviously David was there too, as well as Max. But that's my recollection of her, this woman with the most wonderful spirit and energy. And I've been around a few decades now, and I honestly think I can't think of anybody else in all these years who exhibited that kind of just joy and enthusiasm, that you really wanted to be around her. And I'm sorry I didn't get a few more decades being around her, but I really appreciate the 22 years that I have. Thank you.
My name's Tate Mackey, and I could tell 1,000 stories about Marty. I'll just say 3 words: swing into spring. Nobody ever mentioned that. But then you mentioned the day of the apartment breakdown. You wanted to hear that story, so I'll tell you the story of the apartment breakdown. All right, okay. We were, it was at the place on 19th Avenue.
25th.
25th. We went to a softball game in the morning. We came back about noon. We came up to the apartment, and there was all of this burned out trash on the sidewalk. And we went, oh, somebody's apartment burned down. That really sucks for them. And then we walked inside, and it was our apartment. And Mary had a dog named Nico,
Nico.
a Russian wolfhound that was feral.
Yes.
And it had run away. To our everlasting regret, we went out to Golden Gate Park and gathered that mongrel up and brought it back. The reason the apartment burned down was we left a candle lit on a wicker table next to the bed. Everything in the room was destroyed except and taken out to the sidewalk, except on our bed was a quilt that Marty had made to me for my birthday, my 24th birthday. I'm 65 today. And everything in that room is trashed except for that quilt. It's still pristine. It's not touched by the quilt. And I have it to this day.
I understand. What were you doing there in that room? She was my girlfriend.
So when Marty retired from the library, all the staff was invited to, present and past staff, invited to put a little something in a memory book for her. And I think someone set me up with this idea, and this is what happened. It's a proclamation. Of the powers vested in me as appreciator of all things beautiful, kind, and marvelous, and by the powers vested in me to proclaim all things silly, true, and delightful, I hereby proclaim. Whereas Marti Morec could brighten our day with the bracelets she was wearing, whereas Marti Morec could make art out of her wardrobe on a daily basis, whereas Marti Morec could show up for work impeccably wearing her art after having ridden her bike several miles, whereas Marti Morec created excellently delicious baked goods for her colleagues' enjoyment on many occasions, even if one year the Christmas cookies met an unfortunate end. Whereas Marti Morec could make everyone feel at home, patrons, staff, visiting performers, and artists. Whereas Marti Morec procured many a king cake. Whereas Marti Morec demonstrated her great appreciation of the visual performing arts and of public libraries and public art. And whereas Marti Morec has proven great appreciation for all things alligator. Whereas Marti Morec has shared her great taste in world music, gospel, folk, pop, and country music for the benefit and pleasure of generations of Berkeley Public Library patrons. Whereas Marti Morec could help grow an amazing public program with grace, ease, and generosity. And whereas we have no doubt that party rhymes with Marty, we officially declare December 26th to be Mardi Gras.
Actually, that would be a very fitting ending to remember on December 26th. I'm Susie, and I first met Marty in Newcastle, Indiana, when she moved there after her mother's death. I was in her carpool every single day of high school. And at the end of 9th grade, there was a writing contest. And we all went to the cafeteria and sat down and were given a topic to write about for the next hour. Well, Marty was first in that contest. I was second. And I don't think the topic is going to surprise you. The topic was hands. And many years later, I asked Marty, what did you write? And I thought, but now seeing all that she did, she embodied who she was in that poem that she wrote for the writing contest of hands. So I lost track of Marti kind of over the years. And because she left Indiana and all of us crazy Hoosiers behind. But many years later, she came to find me in Chicago where I was living. And we had some nice conversations and dinner with David. And then in the fall of 2010, I came out here with the expectation of moving here. And she rode her bike back from the library to meet me at her house. And something just didn't sit quite right. I knew something was wrong. And the next spring when she was diagnosed with ALS, we went for a walk down the park. David, you might remember this. You remember coming to my house and taking a walk? And while the two of us walked, she asked me a question. And I know she asked it because I had a cancer at 26. And she said, Susie, what do you do? How do you live? Do you just live for pleasure alone? And my response was, no, Marti, I think you just live. And that's what she did. But she knew how to get pleasure from life more than most any of us. So somewhere she is skating, children, and wasn't all of us.
Great turnout. Hi, I'm Stu Britton. I'm the only person who's doing it. I should have known
Let's hear it for the sound man.
Hi, I'm Stu Britton, and I met Marti over 40 years ago at the house that the gals were talking about in the Sunset. And when I met her, I was struck with how genuine she was and how sweet. And we became quick friends. And eventually, we moved into a house in North Berkeley. We became roommates, and it was a house that we had some really wonderful time at. We lived together for years. And Marti was this great cook. I know that was mentioned earlier. So I was the beneficiary of some really great meals at that house. And she used to make the seafood crepes that I loved, so much so that I proposed marriage to her every time she made this dish. So eventually she was careful never to make the dish But aside from that, I remember she would, it was not unusual for her to bake your favorite cake. If it was your birthday, she would just think, for me it was pineapple upside down cake. She would make these cakes for people. Just think of that and give you this. And it was wonderful. Make you feel really special. And also, what was talked about, people were having a baby, and I'd watch, and she'd be making these quilts for somebody, a friend who was expecting. And then these cards. The cards were amazing. You'd get these cards that had rubber stamps all over them. These wonderful cards that I'm sure most of us have saved. And I think about, God, it made you feel so good. It was such a wonderful gesture. But the thing about Marti is that, Marti, you were the special one. And that's what we're all here remembering about. And so I just want to say I miss you very much. I love you. I'll always miss you.
My name's Vanessa Lawson, I represent, oh, hi. My name's Vanessa Lawson, and I'm part of the Indiana crew representing the Hoosiers, and I was Marty's niece, and I was just going to tell, I have a million stories, but I'm only allowed to tell one. So the one is that, I've always been kind of, different, and so Marty was special to me because she totally accepted this. And so, like, I came to California when I was 14. I was so excited, like, oh my God, it's gonna get to, be myself out there, and it's like nobody cares out here, It's like I wanted to stand out, like, it's like, so maybe I need to stick in Indiana. I'm more 16, I'm different. Anyway, but what was funny was me and my cousin Marin, who's my age, I'm 32, she's around my age too, we just 1 month apart, but when we were 14, we went to California, we were all excited, and Marty was a great tour guide to people who were from out of town. She would take you all over the city and show you the sights, and she was great about that. Well, Marin and I were being stubborn. We had brought all this money with us, but we wanted to save it all for shopping and buying clothes, because when you're 14, that's all that matters, right? Is clothes and shoes, because you don't have real bills to pay. And so we went to this Chinese restaurant, and we were so stubborn, we wouldn't even pay for our own food. We wanted, because Marty was teaching us a lesson. She was not going to buy us lunch. We had to use our own money. So Marin and I shared one bowl of wonton soup that had one dumpling in it, and we cut the dumpling in half, and each ate half a dumpling. And Marty just like, you girls, and so then she bought us like dinner, of course. So we didn't really win. She tried to teach us the lesson. We were just too stubborn. So we still laughing at the wonton soup and the half a dumpling. Anyway, that's all I had to say.
Hi, my name is David. I'm a Marty-aholic. I really, in recent months, I've thought a lot about this and came across a couple of quotes which I'm going to give you. Before I do that, I'm going to brag about myself, but I realize this is actually much more about how wonderful Marty always has been. When I met Marty, I was a friend of David's and had been for a long time, and it was before there was David and Marty, there was just Marty and David. And I said to David at the time, and I was even more than today, a very shallow person. I had no idea of how wonderful Marty was. I didn't know her very well. It was just something about her. And I said to David, if you let this woman get away, you are a complete idiot. And that, in retrospect, is the best piece of advice I ever gave to anybody about anything. We all know that there's lots of feelings that we've had about this. Two of the sort of universal ones are the inconsolable loss that's hard to feel, and the deep gratitude for having known Marty. And I came across a couple of quotes which focus more on the latter. The first one comes from a bathroom wall. Friends are like stars. Even when you cannot see them, you know that they are there. And for those of you who don't know, that's from David and Marty's bathroom wall. And this is from the other great First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt, who said this after the last Christmas that her family was together, Christmas of 1944. And she was quoting someone she described as an old friend of her grandmother's. Enjoy every minute you have with those you love, for no one can take that joy that is past away from you. It'll be there in your heart to live on when the dark days come.
Hi, my name is Ramona, and I was one of the hospice nurses for Marty. I got to be with Marty for 9 months.
Sorry.
I got to be with Marty for 9 months. I fell in love with her. By the time I met her, she was no longer speaking. She was using technology. But I had the most incredible experience with her in that we would have these full conversations without uttering a word, without using technology. And she had a lot to say. Every day that I was with her, we laughed and we cried together. She was such a joy to be with. It was an honor to be with the family and to be with David and Max and Mr. Rye through one of the hardest times. I'm most honored. Thank you.
Oh, here he comes.
I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Rachel's husband. I just wanted to speak on behalf of the Diminished Capacity Review. It's one of our original fabulous capacitets. When Marty and David remodeled their garage, it became the Dim Cap Clubhouse. And we would gather back there and play music and hang out and catch up with each other. But to get to the shack and back, we had to pass through the house, and that meant going through the living room and the kitchen. I should say the dining room and the kitchen, which were Marty's domain. And we never passed through without Marty offering something. Leftovers from the meal they just had, or a pie or a cake or a fruit crumble that she just made. Over time, I noticed that the leftovers got bigger and bigger, and it grew to the point way beyond a meal that any two people could manage to finish. I realized that one of our band members was going through a really bad patch at the time. Doug, Chris Hunt, who's no longer with us, was twice divorced, living all by himself in his house up in the Berkeley Hills that he called the 7 Rooms of Gloom. And while most of us would have a bite, take a sample, have a slice of pie, Chris would always sit down and pack down an entire meal. And I realized that if it weren't for Marty's generosity, Chris probably wouldn't have lived as long as he did if he had to survive on his own cooking. And I thought this was typical of Marty because she had a special talent for knowing, sensing what people needed and giving it to them, whether it was a meal or a card or a bracelet or a visit. And she would always do it unobtrusively. So Marty was one of the only people I knew who could be completely, invariably warm and totally cool at the same time. And one other thing, Norma wasn't in on this, Norma the only gal in the group, but the guys in the group really envied David. David would go out and catch a concert in the middle of the week or go to some performance thing that went on in a warehouse south of Market or catch a one-off movie. And we asked ourselves, how did he get away with that? How do you manage to go out in the middle of the week for 4 hours, come back late at night, and not catch hell about it? What has he got that we don't have? and now it's apparent David had Marty.
Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, Lord, I want to be in that number. When the saints go marching in. And when the sun begins to shine. Oh, when the sun begins to shine. Oh, Lord, I want to be in that number. Oh, when the sun begins to shine. And when the trumpet sounds the call. Oh, when the trumpet sounds the call. Oh, Lord, I want to be in that number. When the trumpet sounds the call. And when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, Lord, I want to be in that number. Oh, when the saints go marching in. And one more night. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, Lord, I want to be in that number. When the saints go marching in. Oh, Lord, I want to be, Lord, I want to be in that number. When the saints go marching in.
Well, I'm so glad that that got us roused and moving and happy again. I do have some comments. I didn't think I would be able to speak. I don't think David thought I'd be able to speak, but apparently I can. But I can't breathe. That's all. Because you cry so much you can't breathe. So I do have some answers to Bill. I was envious of David, even though I wasn't one of the guys, and every time I would come in, I would have a full meal too, and say to both of them, "Do you eat like this all the time?" That was my comment. And Bill, you also said something about Marty always knew what was needed. And she knew that what I was needed was to always be busy and always be doing something. Sometimes I'd be over there and I'd be sitting there and she'd look at me and she'd just say, "Go make the bed." And I would. It would take 1 minute, but it would relieve me of all of whatever I was feeling. So actually, I didn't think I could speak at all. I'm apparently not having problems. But usually I've had a few drinks under my belt, including in singing. And I was thinking, when I was thinking about that, I thought, well, I can just picture Marty bending down and whispering in David's ear, "Let her sing, give her something to do." So everybody has to join me, everybody here. Either you're gonna sing, or you're gonna clap, or you're gonna dance, you're gonna stand up, you're gonna sway in your feet. Marty and David, everybody mentioned, love New Orleans, and they love the music, and they love the wonderful Zydeco, and they love the food and the smells and everything about it. And they introduced all of that to me, and I think a lot of other people. So we're going to do I Go, and I want you to join in. I'm going to sing first. I'm going to get us started. We're going to get the tempo, and I'm going to sing the first verse, and then I want everybody to know those words. So you sing the verse, and we're going to just go back and forth, and I want to hear everybody sing, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. Ande, Giacomo fino Ande, Giacomo fino Ande. Then I go Ande, Giacomo fino Ande, Giacomo fino Ande. Works for one, my good friend and your good friend, sitting by the fire. Our good friend told all of us I'm gonna set the world on fire. Talked about hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now. I go Ande. I go Ande. Look at the girl all dressed in red. I go Ande. Picture her dancing in your head. I go Ande. Talking about hey now, hey now, hey now. I go Ande. Giacomo fino Ande, Giacomo fino Ande. See that girl dressed in green. I go Ande. I know that girl was a loving machine. I go Ande. Talking about hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now. I go Ande. Giacomo fino Ande, Giacomo fino Ande. Once again, hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now. I go Ande. Giacomo fino Ande, Giacomo fino Ande. Oh, and this is right now.
As I walk on through this wicked world, looking for light in the darkness of insanity, I ask myself, is the hope lost? Is there only pain, hatred, and misery? And each time I feel like this inside, one thing I want to know, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Oh, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? And as I walk on through troubled times, my spirit gets so downhearted sometimes. So where are the strong? And who are the trusted? And where is the harmony, sweet harmony? Cause each time I feel it slip away, just makes me wanna cry. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Oh, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Oh, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? So the song asks, where are the strong and who are the trusted? And I'm going to give you my answer today. Rachel Silverman, mistress of ceremonies. She's one of the strong and trusted. And so are the other members of the executive committee, Lissa and Dana. made the prayer flags that are up on the wall, and also hosted a crafts party yesterday for many people to design things. I also want to thank their husbands, Bill Skyboy and Martin. Bill helped design the announcement and also the program. He's showing his typical combination of cleverness and artistic skill. Stu Brennan on sound and light. Ken Rice Photography doing the video. Todd and Jen spent many hours putting the CD together, which you'll hear about in a minute, and something which I am very, very proud. Sharon Frank brought the flowers and arranged them. And my food committee from Kitchen Defenders, Marcy and Greg and Carolyn and their family members who are helping. Susan Sawyer couldn't be here today. She had to fly to Paris to join the Je suis Charlie demonstration tomorrow. I want to thank my emotional supporter and sign carrier, Kathy Riles. And of course, my musicians on accordion, Joel Weber. On guitar and sweet harmony, Brian Bloom. And again, I want to thank all of you for coming. Every one of you is a burning sun. As I walk on through troubled times, my spirit gets so downhearted sometimes. So where are the strong? And who are the trusted? And where is the harmony, sweet harmony? 'Cause each time I feel it slip away, just makes me wanna cry. Everybody, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Last time, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding?
Okay, just 1 minute before you all assemble. I get first dibs in the ladies' room. The kitchen defenders have made a fabulous spread for everyone to enjoy. We hope you will enjoy it. Please take some time to take a look at these altars with all these memories of Marty. Please take some time to sign in the book that's at the front table there if you haven't done so already. And there's a fabulous CD up there for everyone to take home with special, as yet unreleased memories and songs of, and stories special to Marty and David's lives. Okay, thanks so much for helping us remember our